Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Week 14. This is the Matt Willson Weekly Kickoff Show. Gerald, a special 1 hour show that we got going on tonight.
Yeah, we end up skipping a week, so it's like, hey, we figure we might have a lot to say. We might have a lot to say. I'll just say that.
Yeah, there might be a few things we want to talk about.
I always have a lot to say.
You do.
There's not enough time for me to run my mouth.
Well, there is tonight because we got a full hour. And not only do we have a full hour, we're going to go over the schedule in just a little bit. But we actually have a whole night of football lined up ahead. We've got the 1 hour Matt Willson Weekly Kickoff Show, followed by a pair of games at 8 p.m. and then another pair of games at 10:15 p.m. Week 14 starting off with a bang. I hope everybody's settled in and not going anywhere for a while because we got a lot of football coming.
We sure do. And look, it's the last week of the season. A lot of stuff's going to be decided. Well, some will be going to, as we call, like the big dance, to be able to get that hard-earned money toward the end. And some people are just going to be at home watching, just like I will.
Well,
so,
yeah.
Go
Revs.
Yeah, already. I ruined it.
You did.
I don't know how many people knew we wasn't in the playoffs. I think much knew. But
Well, they probably did.
we knew. We definitely knew.
Anybody that's watched Revs games this season probably had a clue.
Yep, just like the ones that watched that Mexico City game.
Well,
let's go.
Listen, anyway, listen, there's only so much time in the show. We've got to get
Here we go.
We got things to go over.
We do.
But listen, we're going to go over the schedule and break down this weekend slate of games for you. We're going to go over the upcoming playoff schedule and let you know what rounds are on which days and times. We've even got our playoff cruise set to go, so we'll go through those playoff crews as well. We've got a special tribute to talk about the late Anthony Stover, who passed away this past weekend, the Atlanta Swarm outside linebacker, and a little tribute to some of the other friends that we've lost along the way. We're going to break down some games. Usually we break down 4 games. We're going to break down 6. So, Gerald just he just kept on typing notes, and next thing we knew, there were 6 games there.
Yeah, I kept typing notes till I fell asleep.
literally right in your chair as you're getting your notes ready, he just passes out. So what else do we got? We're going to talk about the playoffs. After we go and break down the games, we're going to recap the playoff situation as a whole. We're going to tell you who's in already. We're going to tell you who's in with a win this weekend. We're going to tell you who's already out. And then there's some teams that are going to be kind of on the cusp that we really won't know, and we're not going to know until after this week is done and Cam and company go through their playoff situations show and figure everything out. Those are pretty much going to be the teams that are 6-6, but we're jumping ahead a little bit. And then we're going to make our picks. Usually we make 3 picks. We're going to do 5. Why? Because we missed the whole week and we are trying to pack 2 weeks into one.
And then we had one of those weeks where we only did 2 games. I think we picked one of those weeks. I don't know what happened that week either.
I think we were just feeling a little lazy.
It was either lazy or we just forgot how to count. Math is hard.
Probably more likely. That's why we have a stats crew during our games. I can't be counted on to count. Sounds like a lot of work. Anyway, we're really kind of just going way off script now. Let's get back on it. Let's break down that Week 14 schedule. We've got 4 games coming up tonight, starting at 8 p.m. Tulsa at Denver is going to kick things off for us here in the final week of the regular season here in Season 22. Gerald and I are going to do that game right at the completion of this show, or 8 p.m., whichever comes first. So at 8:15 p.m., we've got Houston at your Louisiana Revolution. Got Colin Northrup on the call. The Rick meter is taking a week off, but we've got the Rochelle meter.
Rochelle meter. Look, and I like our chances.
Rochelle Colson.
Why? Because got a Louisiana-born and bred person,
There you go.
Mrs. Rochelle Colson, in there. She's gonna propel us to win. She don't know it, but she's gonna propel us to win.
When you have
the
a
Rochelle
Louisiana
meter is
native.
already leaning to Louisiana.
Yeah.
It's gonna stay that way the entire
Should it be
game.
like a Gator meter or something?
No, man. The
Just the
Rochelle
meter.
meter.
All right.
The
fine.
Rochelle
All
meter.
right. You named
The
it.
Rochelle
Houston
meter.
at Louisiana, battle of 2 South Division teams at 8:15 p.m. Then 10:15 p.m., SFL action continues. Usually on Friday, that's when everybody can go to bed. Not today. As Cameron Duty would say, get settled in. You're not going anywhere for a while. Alamo City at Los Angeles. Chris Curtis, double M7, Mickey Melillo himself on the call. And then at 10:30 p.m., Jacksonville at Canton. We've got Alex West making his debut as a play-by-play broadcaster this week, and Anthony Ellison on analysis that'll round out our Friday slate. What do you think about Alex trying out play-by-play?
That's going to be really, really interesting, right?
Yeah.
He's done nothing but analyst here, but
Right.
look, why not? It's Week 14. It's in it might end up being a better game than what we think. Camp versus Jacksonville. Why not?
Never know.
See how excited Alex is going to be. He hasn't been the winning formula for Louisiana. I can tell you that.
I took him off your game. You got mad at me. He said, he's jinxing us. And I'm like, that's not really a thing. Then he pulled a voodoo doll out of his pocket that he carries with him. It's a little weird, but yeah, I don't judge, man. You can carry your voodoo doll. It's cool.
I sure do.
It's cool. Jacksonville's final game of their storied history. So, a big one, even though it's against a powerhouse team like Canton, and a lot of people, I think if you look at who you got, a lot of people are saying, well, Canton's got that one in the bag. We'll see. Jacksonville might go out with a bag. We'll see.
You never know.
We'll see. So that's our Friday slate. 4 exciting games coming up. Our Saturday slate, pretty much just as exciting. We've got Charleston at Minnesota starting at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday. Got Eric Vincent and Brett Solberg on that call. 6:45 is DC at Queen City. Mark Lopez and Anthony Ellison back again. He's doing his second game for us this week. At 9 p.m., Fort Worth at Baltimore. And, one thing I skipped. Our crew here for Fort Worth at Baltimore is Jacob Clear and Brett Solberg. Jacob Clear, if you missed the league alert, won our award for play-by-play broadcaster of the season, and our analyst of the season, none other than Gerald Smith. Yeah.
I gotta thank you for getting me into it, right? When our really good friend passed away, Matt Willson, and thanks to Cameron Irvine as well for being so willing to allow some Cajun boy like me to say nonsense over the airwaves.
It hasn't kicked you out yet.
I must be doing something good.
I think I got the pity vote to allow you to come in. He's like, well, I mean, I guess if you want him to, sure. I feel bad for you, but he hasn't kicked us out, so that's saying something.
It's something.
So yeah, I don't know what it's saying, but it's saying something.
It's saying something. We'll figure it out.
So
a little bit, and back to Jacob. Jacob Clear
on play-by-play.
Amazing at play-by-play. He was a good analyst, but he's a way better play-by-play guy. I love it.
Absolutely. Him and I had worked over the course of the few seasons he's been with us to try to figure out ways to enhance his analysis, when he was an analyst. And then one day he said, hey, can I try out play-by-play? And I said, sure, let's give it a shot. If there's any one thing that I really find to be true about this league, and especially how I like to run the broadcast team, it's a league of opportunities. If somebody wants to give something a shot, I like to be able to give them that platform and give them that shot. He went on play-by-play, knocked it out of the park, and he's doing a fantastic job of it. All the times he's been available to help us out, fill in a pinch. He's a great guy. Couldn't think of anybody better this season for our play-by-play broadcaster of the season. That's the 9 p.m. game. Jake Clear, Brett Solberg doing Fort Worth at Baltimore. 9:15 p.m. we've got Indianapolis at San Diego. Cameron Duty, speaking of Cameron Duty, and Anthony Ellison. Yeah, that's right. Anthony Ellison doing 3 games for us this season. I think he's vying for that analyst of the season spot.
And he's got a double header here on Saturday.
Sure does.
And he's doing like 3 games throughout the weekend. So great. Look, Anthony's one of the better analysts we have in the league.
And Cameron Duty's one of the better play-by-play guys. The margin between Jacob Clear versus Cameron Duty in that play-by-play of the season spot, razor thin. Cameron Duty did the most games out of anybody on the broadcast team. It was 23, I think, counting the playoff game. Ridiculous. There's only 14 weeks so far in the season. Somehow the guy's already booked 22 games. He's just invaluable asset to the broadcast team and just does a fantastic job. Happy to have him here. That rounds out our Saturday slate. Sunday, some huge games. Mexico City at Vancouver kicking off 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. Both of those teams with 6 wins, which, as you'll find out throughout the show, that 7th win guarantees whoever wins that game a playoff spot. The loser of that game will fall to 6-6. Then the water gets muddy. Muddy as the bayou.
Right. I've actually dubbed this game the play-in game because that's enough said.
Yeah.
Play, you win, you in.
That's it.
Between both teams. So here you go.
We'll break that one down in a little bit. 6:40. Oh, that one's Tyler Falk and Wade Phillips. Can't forget our broadcast crew. Glad to see Wade back on the schedule. He's been sporadically available, but when he is available, we'll make sure to get him on there because he does a fantastic job. And then at 6:45 p.m., Portland at Seattle. We've got Chad Rowland and Alex West. Alex West back in his native analyst spot for his second.
And with the Chad.
The Chad
on play-by-play.
On the play-by-play. The Monday Night Spectacular this week, Carolina at Florida, another game that we're going to break down. Usually we don't touch the Monday Night Spectacular game because of all the other attention that it gets, but it's a big one for Carolina, and it has some potential playoff seeding implication for Florida. Cameron Irvine and Charles Doherty, as always, on the Monday Night Spectacular. That is our weekend slate. Which game are you looking most forward to this week?
I'm looking forward to the Fort Worth-Baltimore game this week. Why? Because Baltimore being who they are, right? And then Fort Worth, right? They're jockeying for position. We already know that. Hey, they're already in the playoffs. But Baltimore is one of the better teams, sitting at 6-5. But we don't know where they're going to fall if they happen to lose. So I'm really interested to see like the 5-4 5-time champ. They got a gazillion titles. See how they're going to react when their back is up against the wall, trying to get into the playoffs.
Third in their division, if I remember correctly. Usually they're right up there at the top, and not this season. It's a whole different animal this season for them. We're going to break that game down just a little bit as well. But first, let's talk about the playoff schedule, as we've got the playoffs right around the corner. In fact, when I say right around the corner, it's next week. They start next week. There's no delay. There's no week off. It's, hey, we finished the regular season. Bam, right into the playoffs we go. So we'll break down the playoff schedule. Obviously, we don't have matchups because, I'm not Nostradamus. So, but we do have the dates. We've got the times, and we've got our playoff crews. So the first wild card matchup will be Saturday, April 20th, 1 week from tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. To keep it simple, all of the times on all of these days are 6:30 p.m. for the first game and 9 p.m. Eastern for the second game. So wild card starts on April 20th. Cameron Irvine and Charles Doherty are going to kick the playoffs off for us. Our Monday Night Spectacular crew, they're kind of a bookend in the playoffs. They start off the playoffs for us and wrap it up with the championship.
I was about to say, why not start it out with a bang with those two guys and end it just the same way?
Absolutely. Cameron Duty and Alex West are going to do the 9 p.m. game on Saturday. Wild card round continues on Sunday, the 21st. Again, 6:30 and 9 all the way through. On the 21st, we've got Mark Lopez and Anthony Ellison on the first block, and Andy Hamilton, Brandon Walters on the second block. The quarterfinals will kick off 1 week from that time, Saturday and Sunday, 6:30 p.m. and 9 p.m., both of those days. Colin and Rick Northrup back in the booth together after we'll see how the Rochelle meter does. We'll see how the Rochelle meter does.
I don't think it's going to have the prestige as the Rick meter.
Probably not.
But as long as, the Rochelle meter's straight Louisiana, even if we're losing big, it doesn't matter. Keep it pegged out.
Keep it pegged down, yeah.
But I love you, Rick.
And then we'll say, well, apparently the Rochelle meter's just broken.
No, it's biased.
It's biased. Biased in the bayou. Colin and Rick on that first call. We've got Eric Vincent and Eddie Gage paired up for the second call on Saturday. On Sunday of the quarterfinals, we'll have Chris Curtis and John Warren on the first game, and then Tyler Falk and Brett Solberg. We had to pair those two together in the playoffs. They haven't been paired together recently. It's been difficult to find time where they were both available. But they were both available for that quarterfinal game, so we'll get Tyler and Brett paired back up for the quarterfinals. Semifinals will be the week after. Both of the games are on Saturday for the semifinals. Myself and you will do the first game, and then we've got our play-by-play broadcaster of the season, Jacob Clear, paired up with Double M7 because, hey, why not? Why not pair him up with Double M7? So, we've got Mickey Melillo in on the other semifinal game. And then, of course, your Season 22 SFL Championship game, Saturday, May 11th, 6:30 p.m. That'll be Cameron Irvine and Charles Doherty.
We got to get Mr. Irvine and Mr. Doherty on camera and in suits. Yeah. I must see it. Yeah. I must see it.
That's oddly specific, but
I must see it.
Okay, well, maybe they can just send you a picture.
I've met them both in person. They're both, tall guys. I think they can, get their wives to get them out the house, get them suited up for a suit, and looking really, really.
Charles's players
delicious
not so tall,
on the championship.
Delicious.
Yeah, delicious.
You heard it here first. And now you can't unhear it. This is live. So, well, there's that. Anyway, let's change gears for just a little bit. On the show, we like to go ahead and break down games for you. We break down the schedule. We talk about different things. We like to joke. We like to have fun because that's what life's all about. But every once in a while, something happens in life that just punches you in the gut. And unfortunately for the SFL community and the Atlanta Swarm community specifically, they lost a good friend and teammate in Anthony Stover, better known as the Atlanta defensive end, Billy Ray Valentine. He tragically passed away on April 6th. He just turned 41 on February 6th. Absolute tragedy to lose somebody that young. I actually had the opportunity back in 2020. If anybody's been around long enough, you'll remember back in 2020, one of the things that we did as broadcasters is we would have like a player spotlight. And we would talk about, somebody specific on the team. We would do an interview with them and try to get to know them a little bit better, and then make the community a little bit more aware of, what sort of stuff is going on in their lives, and just really kind of bring it home to the fact that these are real people. It's not just, sim players on a field. These are real people that have real lives, real stories behind them. And I found out about Anthony. His hometown was Leland, Illinois. It's not plural. It's just Illinois. Leland, Illinois, about 60 miles west of Chicago. His hobbies, he told me, included movies, games, making jokes, and cooking. And I found out even more about him over the last few days, that, just how good of a cook he really was. He was a huge fan of the Goo Goo Dolls, the University of South Carolina Gamecocks, and Scooby-Doo, because who's not a fan of Scooby-Doo?
Scooby-Doo's amazing.
Yeah, gotta love Scooby-Doo. And he actually has tattoos of all three of those different things. I know, like, for Goo Goo Dolls, part of it's a verse of one of their songs. Interesting fact about him, he has seen, at least this is back in 2020, so who knows since then, he had seen the Goo Goo Dolls live in concert 19 times and was able to meet them in person 3 times. He played defensive end for the SFL minor league Madison Lynx back in season 1. They won the championship. He was really proud of that. And then has played for the Atlanta Swarm for 8 seasons. His player racked up 206 tackles, 42 and a half sacks, 78 tackles for a loss, 1 pass deflection, 1 interception, and 3 forced fumbles over his 8-season career. He's survived by his mother, Denise, his father, Rick, his 3 younger sisters, Anna, Sarah, and Emma, his grandmothers, Joanne and Pamela, many aunts, uncles, cousins, and hosts of friends, including the Atlanta Swarm teammates and the SFL community as a whole. And if you're interested, no pressure. There is a GoFundMe that was established to help cover funeral expenses for the family. If you're interested, you can just visit GoFundMe.com, search for the name Anthony Stover, and you can find out more there. Gerald, it's hard to even go over things like that because, you and I have both lost people in our lives significantly too young. And, it really hits me every time we're talking about that sort of stuff because of just how close to home it hits. And I know how, how the players and coaches and staff of Atlanta is feeling right now. And even more specifically, Anthony's friends and family from where he lived. It's a tough thing to try to stomach. Anthony joins an unfortunately growing list of people who we've lost over the years from the SFL community. Some people might not even realize, and might not even know what it means, but you'll hear one of the broadcasters, or you might even just see people doing it, saying, put your 4s, 12s, 86s, and 68s up in the chat. And you'll see 4, 12, 86, and 68. And some people might be thinking, I don't know why I'm doing this, but okay, 4, 12, 86, and 68. It's because those numbers, except for the 4s, used to just be put your 4s up in the chat for the 4th quarter. Correct. The rest of the numbers represent players that we've lost over the years. 12, no surprise, is Matt Willson. We've got his jersey up here. We named the whole show after him. Right. And it's just been the way that we've tried to honor him throughout the years. Back in in 2020. Life took Rich Pratchard from us. He was an SFL broadcaster and wide receiver for the Vancouver Legion. He was only 50 years old. Back in 2022, Leonard Butler Sr., the defensive end for your team, the Louisiana Revolution, he passed away at the age of 65. 2022 also took my lifelong best friend, broadcast partner, quarterback and co-owner of the Mexico City Aztecs, Matt Willson, who we've already talked about, at the age of 41. And now, of course, in 2024, Anthony Stover, also only 41 years old. I mean, 41, 50, even 65, Gerald, that's just too damn young.
Yeah, it's too young, right? You look, and I've been in the league a while too, and it hit the league hard when Rich Pratchard passed away because especially guys like you, before I joined the the broadcast crew and stuff like that, he was the guy that had really, really good rapport with a lot of guys, attended
Great dude.
conventions and,
Yeah.
and stuff like
I got
that.
to meet him in Atlanta at the convention.
And then, and then Matt passed away just a couple years later, in between week 1 and week 2 of that earlier season, the summer season that kind of started on. And then here we are just a few short months later. Leonard from our team had passed away, tragically, like from a heart attack. He was on vacation with his family on the beach. So at his age, and here we are now, Anthony Stover, just, all these people taken way too early,
way too soon.
had a lot left to offer. And it's all people who were beloved and loved in the league, by their peers and their teammates and everything else. So it's not anything that's real easy to talk about, losing guys like that we've connected with, across all these years. But it's really good to see when you see those 12, 68s and 86s in the chat, that people really remember them for, how important they were to the league as a whole.
It's a reminder for all of us, I think, just to take a minute and think, as we go through our daily lives, sometimes get into petty little disputes over politics or sports. I mean, you name it, any little thing that people might be fighting about. Take a moment and stop and think about how short and fragile life really is. Remember to cherish every moment and don't take anything for granted. I've worn this wristband since Matt Willson's celebration of life back in 2022. Every single day, it's got his name on it, his player number, and then the phrase that he tried to live life by, and that's choose happy. And anybody that's ever listened all the way to the very end of any of our broadcasts, I say it at the end of every single call that I've ever done since Matt passed. And it's something that I try to live by. And I recommend you all do the same. Life's better if you just try to choose happy. This league has brought so many different people together, forged new friendships, people that we would have never met any other way. And those are the things that truly matter in life. And it's important to remember that, because you never know when it's going to be your last day, and you want to make sure you live life to the fullest. Let's take a brief moment and remember our friends who've left us too soon. And prayers to David Ware's family. His mother passed away from injuries sustained in a car crash. Just again, a reminder to us all just how short and fragile life is. Heck, on my way to meet Gerald for dinner tonight, saw a pickup truck go onto the wrong side of the road on a double solid going around a curve, darn near took out a minivan. I mean, you just never know. So, always try to not take life for granted and choose happy and try to make the most out of every day. So thanks for that. Thanks for giving us those few minutes to talk about Anthony, talk about Rich, talk about Leonard, talk about Matt, and helping us to honor them. But let's try to make things positive again, because we've got a whole weekend full of football. And I know all of those people would want us to focus on our games and have some fun and choose happy. And that's what we're going to do for the rest of the show. We're going to choose some happy now, Gerald. We're going to break down some games. Let's get it going. So we're going to do them in the same order we always do them. Completely reversed order. Why do we do it that way? I don't know, man.
It makes sense in our weird brains.
It did. But now we're talking about the farthest game away. So it's like, does that make sense? That's what we're going to do. We're going to break down the Monday Night Spectacular. Let's talk about Carolina at Florida. That's the game on Monday night. We've got Carolina at 6-5. It's our first win and in team that we're going to talk about. They started 2-5, and then that was through week 8. They've been 4-0 ever since. Florida, on the other hand, 10-1 after their loss to Canton last week, which they kept it close for a good portion of the game. It was actually their first loss since week 11 of season 21, like we've talked about a few times. And who'd they lose to before that, Gerald? Carolina, who they're playing on Monday night. So that was their that was their last loss that Florida had was back in week 10 of season 21, and it was to Carolina. So Florida, they've already won the East Division. They won that a while ago. Carolina, they need a win to get in for sure. But, we'll have to see how the game ends up playing out. So let's talk about the Carolina offense.
Well, Carolina, they're winners of 4 straight, right? All their teams, though, have been all the wins have been against teams that have 4 wins or less. But guess what? Wins are wins. It don't matter who you play, how you win. You just playing who's right in front of you, get it done. They have been great offensively due to the quarterback play from Matt South and the run game by Ike McBride and Harish Prasad.
Yeah.
The last 4 games, Matt South has 8 touchdowns versus only 2 interceptions, with 70% of his passes complete. And the running backs in the run game are averaging 137 yards a game during, that whole stretch as well.
Right.
They're number 1 on third downs offensively at 63%. So offensively, they're looking pretty crisp right now, which is why they've actually got 4 wins in a row.
And let's talk about their defense, who I'm not going to let anyone ever forget. You trashed on this show earlier on in the season. You're like, nah, they're just bad. I got nothing good to say. Then they came out and balled out and had a really great game. And they pulled it together to do enough to contribute to that 4-game win streak.
Yeah, and they're making me sound like I don't know. And most times I don't know what I'm talking about anyway. I'm talking out of left field.
We'll get to the picks later. But I might be winning that. Here
we go. But look, their pass rush has improved, which has contributed to those 4 wins that they've had, recently. So look, and their linebackers and secondary have been among the SFL best with batting the balls down to the ground on third down. Look, but this is the thing. They're going to have to step up, and they will have to stop the run this week against Florida to get themselves in a situation to make the playoffs. Now, they've done it last season, right? When Florida seemed like they were just running through everybody.
Right.
And at the time, guess what Florida had at the time? They had 1 loss. Yep. Here they are again. Carolina playing a 1-loss Florida team. Can they do it again this week? We're going to find out.
We will find out. So let's talk about Florida. They secured that number 2 seed. They did lose to Canton, but really, who hasn't lost to Canton at this point? So let's talk about Florida.
Yeah, and they are still a very elite team, and they are the defending champions, right? They're the champions until somebody else proves otherwise. Yep. So, look, and they scored the 2nd most points in the league with the number 3 total offense. They can move the ball, really, really well and score points which seems to be seemingly at will, right? And they have the number 4 rushing attack. Florida just does Florida things, right? I said it beginning of last season, right? Back at the convention when we saw Florida play that first game.
Yeah.
I said, looks like vintage Florida. And guess what they're doing? They're doing still doing vintage Florida things. Now you can't call it vintage because they're repeating it.
Yeah, they're just back to their old ways, and it's like those last seasons in between never happened. They've also got a top 5 defense, which that's really was their defense that kept them in the game last week. Defense and special teams. The offense actually struggled, but again, it's against Canton. Every offense has seemingly struggled against it. But let's talk about that defense. They're doing a really great job.
Yeah, and they're forcing tons of turnovers.
Yeah. They forced turnovers on Canton's opening drive.
Right, and I think and they put pressure on the quarterback as well. Really good pressure, right? Yep. 19 sacks by the front 4 alone.
That's crazy.
Not to mention all the other ones they got, like from the linebacker and such, but 19 just from the front 4.
Yeah.
So they know how to put pressure on the quarterback. The secondary, boasts the SFL leader in interceptions. He's actually tied for the league in Evan Carroll, right? He just ball hawking all over the place. They don't really have any real weaknesses, and they proved that last week against Canton, right?
Yeah.
That they held Canton in the game, right? They kept themselves in the game for so long, slowed down Canton. Canton scores a ton of points. And they seemingly can score at will at times. So, and that's the thing. They don't have really any real weaknesses from what I can see. But Carolina has the work cut out for them.
They do.
This week against them.
But they've beat them before. They can beat them again. So I'm not counting them out. It's going to be a great game on Monday night, and it'll decide whether, for sure, Carolina gets in or has to rely on some tiebreakers. So looking forward to that one. So next game we'll break down the Mexico City Aztecs. And I'm sorry, I don't have a Vancouver flag anywhere. And if I did, it wouldn't be showing right now. Mexico City at Vancouver, Sunday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. Both of those teams at 6-5 currently. Both of those teams control their own destiny. Winning in, like we've talked about, you're probably noticing the trend. You get that 7th win, you've got yourself a playoff spot. Both teams have had very similar seasons. As I look through what Vancouver's had going on, it's been very up and down, just like we have been over in Mexico City. We'll win a couple, we'll lose a couple, and it just goes back and forth. Vancouver, though, they're currently leading the Pacific. They still have an opportunity to win that division, although the top 3 teams could all end up 6-6, depending on how things play out. Mexico City, the best that they can hope for is second place in the South. Fort Worth won that one. I think it was last week, the week before. That's been in the bag. Even with a loss, though, both teams could still potentially make it, although, Vancouver's probably got a better shot at it, just looking at the tiebreaker situation. Mexico City would be in a little bit of a rough spot if we had to rely on tiebreakers. So go Aztecs. We got to get that win. But as stated, the winner gets in for sure. So, let's talk about that game.
And this is a game where, like, we can go into all the stats that we want about it. But at this point, because like I said, I called the play-in game for the playoff. You win, you're in. Yep. You play, you win, you're in. So the statistics across both teams don't mean a whole lot.
Right.
Now, this is something I want to talk about right here. Both teams have won 3 of their last 4.
Yep.
Both are in the must-win situations, right? You guys need to win to get in the playoffs. Vancouver needs to win to potentially win the division as well. If they win, they're in, right? So it's just the way it is. Loss by both will have them sitting at home, right? Yep. Of course, only one can lose, so they'll be sitting at home. Vancouver wins if they win the Pacific Division. Mexico City wins, they're in. Vancouver is 3-2 at home. They're home tonight.
Right.
Or home
Saturday.
Whenever you play.
Sunday.
One of them days.
Sunday.
You get what I'm saying.
Sunday, 6:30. Yeah.
So they are 3-2 at home.
Yeah.
While Mexico City is 3-2 on the road.
Road Warriors,
so
baby.
Something's got to
Can't win at home, but we can win on the road.
Both have only beaten one winning team this season. So, and that's the thing. And like here they both
dagger
are.
Through the heart.
All these similarities for them are kind of playing together.
That's what I'm saying. Very similar seasons.
It's almost very similar seasons in how they're playing. Now, on paper, Mexico City can be considered the favorite for statistics go.
That a boy.
Even on the road. You guys are really good. But Vancouver has been to 8 straight playoffs with multiple division titles. I don't think either of these teams will go away quietly.
Now let's not disparage Mexico City's history. Sure, Vancouver's been to 8 straight playoff, seasons, but prior to last season, we don't talk about season 21 in Mexico City, just like we don't talk about season 3. Or not season 3, it was our 3rd season, and I think it was season 6. Yeah, we had 3 wins that season as well. So we had 2 seasons in the entire history going back to season 5 where they've had, a losing record.
It's you guys, and that's not similar. You in Mexico City and Vancouver have so many similarities in that way. So many winning seasons. So if anybody who's seen the broadcast research, you go there and you look at it, green means you're good, and that you have a winning record. There's tons and tons of greens on the Vancouver side, tons and tons of green on the Mexico City side.
Arguably more.
But these teams have a storied history of being extremely successful. So this is going to be one of the better games this week, the play-in game.
Sure is. So, yeah, we always enjoy playing against Vancouver. In fact, Matt Wilson's final game ever was against Vancouver. And boy, oh boy, did they not even slightly slow down or let up or anything. They're like, we're going to pick Matt Wilson off 7 times in his final game. May he rest in peace. And they just sent him off with a bang. But, hey, we can't win them all. But, I'm hoping that maybe we can beat him on Sunday. We'll see. It's going to be a good one. So let's talk about the game that you're looking most forward to. Fort Worth at Baltimore. It's Saturday night, 9 p.m. It's a matchup that, honestly, I wouldn't have expected having the, the impact that it's going to have for Baltimore at this point in the season. Baltimore's season is currently still up in the air in Week 14. I don't know if that's ever happened, that their playoff lives have been on the line this late in the season. Not only are they 3rd in their division, which is already uncharted territory for them, but they could actually potentially miss the playoffs altogether. And they're actually, you talked about the research sheet that we have where it highlights green for winning records. All of their records since they came into the league as the Vultures in season 11, all of them are green. That's all they've had is a winning record. If they lose this game, being at 6-5 right now, they could fall to 6-6 and have the first ever yellow line on the research sheet showing how their team did that season. Fort Worth, on the other hand, they've had an incredible season, 8-3. They've been beating multiple teams that have winning records. Best strength of victory in the league. They visit Baltimore in Baltimore, and usually that means Baltimore is going to win. Why? Because Baltimore wins a league best 88% of the time when they are at home in Baltimore. But this one's going to be a major test for them. Major test. So let's talk about that one. Let's start with Fort Worth and their offense. I know they've won 7 of their last 8.
Yeah, and their offense is number 8, right? And it's led by their 2 studly wide receivers, and E.J. Minson and Stephen Hacker. Hacker is having, I have no other way to put it, except for a Gabriel Manning type season with 66
good
catches
comparison, though.
for over 1,100 yards and an SFL leading. He's actually tied 13 touchdowns on the season, and that's like I said, that's Gabriel Manning type numbers, right? So, and then if you on the running side of the game, J.Z. Bacon has gotten into the groove as well, and he's number 7 in the league in rushing. So he's actually come along and actually fully rounded out that offense to kind of complete it as a whole. And they're doing it like right at the right time. They're starting to pick all that momentum up on offense and able to get it go. So across the board, they are just really, really good. And on third down, they're actually really, really good on third down as well.
Yeah, not only offensively, but they're really good in third down defense as well. Number 3 in the league on third down defense in the league, due to that excellent pass rush that they have from, Gons, Jerry D, and Luther.
Yeah, I know a lot about Luther Gons. He started out with us, and he was a menace in there. He actually, I do still think he holds the franchise. He's a franchise leader in sacks down in Louisiana, but he's doing the same thing there. Look, and they have 11 sacks between the two for the father and son combo. Right. Jerry D's the pops, Luther is the son there, and what they're doing combined for 11.5 sacks, just them two. Linebacker J.L. Browning is having a career season. Yeah. He's having a wonderful, wonderful season. To me, what I've seen, it's one of the best seasons I've seen from linebacker in a very long time. 75 tackles so far, 3.5 sacks, 21 tackles for losses, and 4 interceptions. I think he is one of the favorites for a potential Defensive Player of the Year award at season's end.
Yeah, absolutely. Fort Worth, I mean, we've both played them. They were menacing to both of us. You know.
Without a doubt.
I'll never forget Marcus Dunhill and those magical legs that he had that day.
Wonderful, wonderful legs.
Yeah, well, it wasn't so wonderful. That's a matter of perspective, sir.
It sure is.
And from this perspective, it was aggravating. So, but they're doing a fantastic job, and they're going to really give Baltimore a run for their money. But let's talk about Baltimore. I mean, we're talking about how their season's on the line. They're not the Baltimore that we're used to seeing, but they're not dead.
No.
I mean, they're not bad. In fact, the offense is top 9 in pretty much every category.
Yeah, and it's and quarterback Jack Wigmore is 5th in the league in passing yards and number 2 in touchdowns thrown. Right, so his main target is All-Star Ivory Irvin, who has 75 receptions, over 1,200 yards, and 9 touchdowns on the season, all of which is top 3 in the league. So they're doing really, really good things in the passing game. And the ball carriers are contributing on a high level as well, right? They're averaging 116 yards all season long, and they have the overall 9th ranked rushing attack. Look, but they're going to have to execute to the I think they're going to have to play above of what they've been doing all season to play against such a very, very good defense in Fort Worth. And they're going to have to execute at a high level to knock Fort Worth off to make sure they get themselves in the playoff. Yeah,
defensively, I mean, that's the side of the ball that's basically been their issue. I mean, they're allowing points to be scored, and statistically speaking, they're near the bottom of the league in all categories. Talk about that.
Yeah, look, and they having the second to last ranked total defense. It's not what we've come to know from a Baltimore defense, that we've seen during all their championship runs, right? But here they are, ranked 24th in total defense and yards allowed per game across the whole season. But one thing that's kept them where they are, they're top 3 in takeaways.
Yeah.
They do it really, really well, along with them being a top 10 defense on third down.
Right.
So that coupled together, they get up a lot of yards, but they're able to stop them on third down and actually forcing turnovers in that way. Look, at this point, the only question is, can they keep up, the type of play that they want to reach themselves in the playoffs? Now,
look,
and we're going to break this down later, but if they fall, I really do think that they probably have the best chance, given the tiebreakers that they have, to get into the playoffs at 6-6. But believe me when I say, my team has got caught in the 6-6 shuffle.
Yeah.
And at one time, along with your team, in the 7-5.
7-5, we missed it.
7-5, tussle. You don't want to get in that 6-6 mess because you could be on the outside looking in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be an exciting one. Let's keep it rolling on the Saturday slate. We've got Charleston at Minnesota, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Charleston is at 5-6. Minnesota is at 9-2. Minnesota, they've already won the Central Division. They are in the playoffs. This game will only even be potentially about seeding for them. Charleston, they still have a shot at the playoffs. Any 6-6 team does, technically. But if they lose, then they're definitely done. They've also already lost to, the third-ranked division rival Atlanta last week. That one hurts. But they did beat number 2 ranked in the East, Carolina, back in week 8. So maybe that'll come into play when it comes to tiebreakers. But first things first, they really just need to win here to get to 6-6 because 5-7 ain't going to cut it. They've proven they can win, but they're not really consistent about it. And they're going up against a red-hot Minnesota team. So we start with Charleston, and you can talk about both the offense and the defense.
Yeah,
together.
and Charleston, went from being the hottest team just a few weeks ago, coming off of a 4-game win streak. I think I even said to it, hey, they're the hottest team in the league.
You did?
And they're looking pretty dangerous at the end of week 9.
Broadcasters cursed that one, didn't you?
I guess I did, because they're having lost 2 of the last 3 and on the outside looking in for the playoffs right now. It's just, as of right now, it's not looking too good for them, especially with them playing a 9-2 Minnesota team coming into this week. So, look, they need a win and some help. Yeah. And they may need a lot of it, right? So as these, if these, and your game is particularly one of them too as well. Hey, both of you guys sitting at 6-5, so both those 6-5 teams can't lose, right? So here you are. Look, they have given up also 40 points or more in twice in the last 3 weeks that they've had, right? And that's compared to what they did all of season before. They've never given up more than 30 points the rest of the season. The offense have struggled on third down, and they haven't looked like they have had during their 4-game win streak that they had mid-season. So, their offense, possessions have not resulted into any points recently what they have. And defensively, they've given up too much points.
Right.
You know what I mean? So and they need, they need a win against a top 4 seed in here, which that's what Minnesota's looking like. They're going to be in the top 4, and I'm pretty sure they have secured themselves, I think, if I'm not mistaken, into a potential bye. It's going to be a tall, tough task for them.
It is. I mean, Minnesota's an extremely good team. They've got the number 2 passing offense, number 2 total offense in the league. Quarterback Johnny Reno has been among the best quarterbacks all season. I know that, that's an opinion that you share.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think he's been the best quarterback in the league right now, right? Look, he might not have all these number 1 numbers here and there, but he's actually been so consistent over the course of the whole season. He holds the SFL best in touchdown to interception ratio, with also being number 2 in QBR, number 3 in passing yards. Yeah. And one thing that he does really well, he has really good ball distribution across players. 4 different players have over 30 catches on this squad. So crazy. Look, and then they actually have, in my opinion, the future Hall of Famer Colin Hart is really coming along as well.
Might be some bias there,
yeah, I do. He played for us, right? He played for Louisiana. Look, and he's ranked number 11 in the league in rushing right now.
There is that, yeah.
So the offense, right? So the offense is playing at a championship level right at this moment.
And honestly, the defense is too. They're keeping right up with the offense in terms of production. Number 3 in total. Number 2 scoring defense. Talk about that.
And I think we've called a couple Minnesota games. The minutes on the defensive line is Max Knight has been a force on the defensive front.
Listen, I remember playing Minnesota in week 3, and as I'm going through film, I'm like, who is this guy that's the size of a dump truck that keeps coming through the line, destroying my quarterback? Max Knight.
And guess what he did? He's got 6 sacks on the season. And a player that you know all too well as well, linebacker Matthew Alvarado.
I knew
he is playing at an all-star level. People across the league is wondering why you let him walk. I have no idea, but here he is.
I lost an arm wrestling match.
We lost. Here he is in Minnesota doing good things outside of Canton, right? I really do think that they could very possibly be the most complete team in the SFL. And that's saying something because Florida just lost against Canton, and they are sitting at 10-1 coming into this week. And Minnesota's at 9-2.
Yeah, they are. They're doing great. It's going to be a great game. looking forward to that one. So, hey, that's our Saturday, our Sunday, and our Monday games. We've got 4 games on Friday. Let's break down at least a couple of them. We've got tonight at 8:15 p.m., Houston at your Louisiana Revolution. Houston, they stopped a 3-game skid back in Week 12 when they beat Atlanta. And again, they went and won last week, not only beating Arizona, they won in Arizona. They're currently number 2 in the South. However, they would fall to number 3 if they lose this game and the Aztecs win. So no pressure or anything. But boy, oh boy, would I really like to be number 2 in the South. I'd rather be number 1 but Fort Worth. Well, freaking Dunhill in that running, man. God. Anyway, so Houston's in the playoffs. They already secured that playoff spot no matter what with that win over Arizona. So this is going to be about divisional record and some playoff seeding. Your Revs, on the other hand, they're playing for pride, as they say. You also stopped a 3-game skid back by winning against Jacksonville last week in Jacksonville. But you are out of the playoff picture, but of course, still hoping for the win. I mean, this is one where, you never fold. It's just like our teams don't put in the backups because, wow, we've already got a playoff spot. We're going to play backups. Nah,
right.
Not in this league. We're going to play the starters. You're going to play your starters. You're going to play to win this game. And I need you to win this game.
I know from on the outside looking in, you're hoping that we're win.
Yeah.
We're wanting a win. We don't hope for anything. We
right.
want it, and we want it. We got to try and go out and take it. Now, Houston is already in the playoffs, right? So, they are in no danger if they lose.
Right.
They just, the seeding gets a little bit weird. They might play a little bit more competitive opponent. GP Wells and Josh Slapp have been top shelf running backs all season for Houston, right? Slapp is leading the SFL in rushing and could very well be the only running back this season to reach 1,000 yards on the ground where he sits right now. And he's going to get it, I believe he's probably 9 or so yards. Or
hold him,
9
man.
or 10 yards.
Hold him. You can do this.
That. So look, we might take him out in the knees. I don't know. So look, and that's it. So they've been playing really well, and it's been on both sides of the ball for them, right? I know they've been had some. I think they were like 5-0 or 5-1 at one time, and then they kind of struggled. So they haven't had the finish of the season like they've actually had the start of the season.
Yes.
So look, Louisiana for us, we have left a lot to be desired for our fans and ourselves, right? We didn't reach our full potential like we figured that we should have had, right? We have seen it over the course of the season, right? We've figured out, hey, look, where can we best utilize our players and all going forward? So, and it's on us as an organization, the coaching staff, hey, to make sure, hey, look, we keep that all in and kind of get it in, being open and honest with our players that we have. Look, but we haven't reached the full potential based on the talent that we have. So we've identified some things, and for us, this is, as we've been using these last few weeks, right, that we've had, knowing that we have been out of the playoffs as building blocks for next season, right, to show our fans and the league and our players, hey, we're still in this thing, right? We're still going out there and compete, and we can seemingly come away with the win, I believe. Yeah,
I mean, that's how the Aztecs were last season. We started off 0-7. I mean, it was pretty rough. Or it was 0-5, I think, and then before we finally won it, we were 0 a lot. It was rough. But then we were able to start winning some games, and we were 3-2 throughout the last 5 games of the season to show, hey, we can win, we can do some stuff. Alvarado still packed his things and left. But
hey, he's 9-2 in the playoffs already. So
yeah, he's welcome back anytime.
Yeah,
line out there, analogy anyway. But yeah, you want to play for pride. You want to play to win games. You want to try to get ready for next season because hey, next season's going to be here before you know it. Speaking of Houston, we're going to be in Houston calling the game to get that season started. So I'm looking forward to that one. It's going to be here just a couple months. So, hey, let's talk about the game that we've got coming up first. Coming up next, 8 p.m. Eastern time. We're only about 10 minutes away from kickoff. So our final breakdown of the night is our final breakdown of win and you're in implications with Tulsa. They missed the playoffs last season, but if you look at the seasons past, they went 7-5 in each of the 3 seasons previous to season 21, and they're currently at 6-5. So they've made the playoffs twice during that time frame, and even got a playoff win in one of those seasons. They're 6-5 now. If they win, they're back to 7-5. They're back in the playoffs for season 22. Tulsa's one of those teams that just seems, in my opinion, fly under the radar. Not a lot of people talk about them. If you ask anybody, hey, give me your top 5 teams in the league, Tulsa's not one of the ones that comes up, but I mean, that's consistency right there, especially if they win this one. they go 7-5, 4 out of 5 seasons. Like, not too bad.
It's consistency.
That's consistency. Denver, on the other hand, they are definitely out of the running. They're 3-8, but they are coming off a win, and they're never going to back down against a division rival. So they're going to be looking to play spoiler here. Tulsa has the number 2 spot in the Central Division. That one's locked up, but a playoff berth is not guaranteed. So they're not necessarily out with a loss, like we said, but they do control their own fate here if they get that win. So let's talk about Tulsa at Denver.
Yeah, look, Tulsa has this is going to be one of the big things tonight. Tulsa's number 1 pass offense against a Denver defense. You wouldn't think it at 3-8. Number 2 pass defense in the league. Right. They know how to just stop you passing the ball. Like I said, Denver at 3-8. You wouldn't think they would have a very, very good defense, but guess what? The ninth best total defense in the league, right? So it's just the offense that has given them some trouble, at some point in time. But Tulsa, number 4 total offense in the league. Gabe Manning, number 1 in everything at the wide receivers, 89 receptions.
He should change his number to 1. Then we should make an exception.
Right. 1,573 yards and 13 touchdowns, tied with Stephen the Hacker for the most. And you know a lot about Phoenix Jones. Phoenix Jones has gotten going as well. Yeah. They become a little bit more balanced. Even though throwing it to Gabriel Manning a lot, here he is. 12th in the league in rushing when he wasn't getting the ball at all.
And we talked about
the first
that.
half of the season.
All the way back in, I think, our very first show, we talked about Tulsa and talked about Phoenix Jones going. They're doing it now.
And here we are, Gene Struthers, right? And they're not doing too shabby on offense, right? But that's where they've been struggling. Been number 1 in completion percentage. Yeah. Gene Struthers in Denver. Bailey O'Shaughnessy, right? What he has, number 6 in rushing.
Yep.
So they're not a terrible team, right? And Denver, this is what's going to be interesting about tonight. They play at home. Denver has won all 3 of their games at home. Mm-hmm. They are home tonight.
Right.
So I really do think Tulsa has something to worry about for tonight's game.
Yeah, it's not going to be a gimme. I mean, they won convincingly last week, but it's a whole new week. Every week in the SFL, you just never know what's going to happen. So I'm really looking forward to that one. We're going to get that one going in just a few minutes here. So let's recap the playoffs for everybody. The teams that are win and in. Let's talk about those ones. We've got Tulsa, we've got Baltimore, Carolina, Mexico City, Vancouver, and Seattle. Those 6 teams, if they win this weekend, they've got themselves a playoff spot. They'd be joining the teams that are already locked up. Canton, Houston, Minnesota, DC, Fort Worth, and Florida. Those teams are already in the playoffs. Teams that are on what you call the outside looking in, basically are 6-6 teams, or the 5-6 teams that need a win to even still remain on the outside looking in list. That's going to be Charleston, San Diego, Alamo City, and Atlanta, who is on a bye week this week. They are already 6-6, so no risk of going to a 7th loss. They've got that 6-6 locked up. So those are the teams that are really going to see what happens on those teams there, and the teams that are winning in that end up losing will be the ones that are really talked about on the playoff breakdown show after this week is completed. And of course, the teams that are not in the running any longer: Denver, Louisiana, Los Angeles, Jacksonville, Queen City, Indianapolis, Portland, Motor City, and Arizona. And dedicated to say, I love y'all. You put the note on there, so I'm reading it. So, but yeah, those teams, their seasons are complete. Many of them are getting ready for next season already. But I know you've been game planning for weeks for next season. So I've been trying to look at your notes, be like,
look, we got to get it in.
I'm not losing to you again on camera, especially after my obnoxious butt thrown.
Well, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think you'll be coming to the swamp, so it'll be good. Good luck. Good luck to you.
I'll bring some green, blue, and black confetti for that one. So we'll see what happens there. So, all right, we're going to try to wrap this show up now so that we can get on to the game. We've got 4 games coming up. We want to make sure we keep them on schedule. So let's get to our picks, and then we'll wrap things up. So far, speaking of winning, my pick record so far, 22-12. What's your record?
18-16.
Oh, so worse. You're losing?
That's true. I'm trailing. Not losing. I'm trailing.
You are losing.
We're trailing right now.
You're trailing because you're losing.
Look, we're making picks to the playoffs. I'm gonna catch
up. Heck yeah, all the way through through and including the champion. Yep. So yeah, anybody that thought this was the last Matt Willson weekly kickoff show of the season, you thought we were done? Nay. You get to deal with us throughout the whole playoffs too. So there's that. Hey, back in week 12 was the last time we made picks because, I took a week off last week. I was in North Carolina.
He abandoned me.
I totally ditched him. I didn't even invite him on my trip because he's trailing. He was trailing behind and couldn't make it. So back in week 12, though, you picked Minnesota, Portland, and Canton. I picked Arizona, Los Angeles, and Canton. The winners were Minnesota, Los Angeles, and Canton. So we both won a couple, lost one. So this week's picks, let's talk about it. We're gonna pick 5 games. We're gonna start with Carolina at Florida. Who do you got?
All right, so Florida had coming off a loss last week, right? We're rolling and motoring along, but I have confidence in Harish Prasad and his squad and everything else. Ike McBride, what she's doing, Matt South. I just think they have the formula right now to beat Florida. They're going to go into Florida and come away with the win. They're going to weather the storm, and they're going to come away with the win.
Weather that Florida storm, huh? Weather the typhoon, the tsunami.
The tsunami. The
one
typhoon.
of them things. Listen, I got Florida. Florida hasn't lost since week 10 last season to Carolina, other than Canton, but I think they're going to keep on rolling. I think Florida gets the win. Mexico City at Vancouver.
Now,
who do you got, Gerald?
This is a hard one because
Aztecs fans, listen to this pick.
So here it is. It was a big question mark for me. I love Mike Dax. I love what these guys are doing, but Vancouver has been consistent throughout everything that they've done. Vancouver, I think, comes away with a narrow win, and I hope, for your sake, that it's not left in the hands of the legendary Larry Love, because if it happens, Jordan Sipes had the injury bug recently. So if Jordan Sipes stays in the game, I think you have a good chance of winning. But if he doesn't, I don't have confidence in Larry Love. So in that case, because Jordan Sipes has trouble staying in the field, Vancouver is who I'm picking.
Rude. Larry Love kept us in the game last week, helped us get the win last week. I ordered a Larry Love jersey after last week's game. I'm wearing it to the convention. Number 2, baby. Aztecs get the win. You stop it right now. Fort Worth at Baltimore. Who do you got?
I have Baltimore. They're playing at home, and because they need this win, they just know how to win when it matters most. And Baltimore is going to come away with the win. Every time
I pick Fort Worth, they lose. So I picked Fort Worth. Take that, Toros. Listen, all kidding aside, I think Fort Worth, Baltimore just doesn't quite have it all together. Fort Worth's just been piling on these other teams. They just seem like a powerhouse. Really could go either way, but I'm going to go with Fort Worth. Charleston at Minnesota. Charleston was the hottest team in the league at one time. They're not anymore. Minnesota is one of the hottest teams in the league, and they're going to win it. I don't think it's any question for me. Yeah, no question for me. We'll actually agree on a pick for once. I had to pick some teams different than you along the way to give you a fighting chance to stop trailing. But, Minnesota for sure. And Houston at Louisiana. Who do you got?
And how dare I even say anything? Revs all the way. It doesn't matter. We're better. Even though the final score may not say it, we're going to win at something in this game. Even though we might be it on the scoreboard, we're going to win, challenge, something. We're going to win at something. We're going to use up all of our timeouts. That's definitely.
Well, there you go.
We win.
And like a true friend should do for their friend, I, too, am going to pick my friend's team, the Louisiana Revolution, to get the win, because that's what true friendship means.
You left me behind in vacation. I can't allow you to leave me behind for the playoffs. We have to sit down together and watch the playoffs together, alone, outside looking at. That's why I picked Vancouver.
Got it. You just didn't want.
I just wanted to be with my friend.
That's all the time that we have for the Week 14 Matt Willson Weekly Kickoff Show. Appreciate all of you joining us throughout the regular season. Sorry that we missed last week. I hope you enjoyed the 1-hour show. I know that we sure did. Looking forward to calling Tulsa at Denver coming up in just about a minute's time. We're going to be back for the wild card. We'll be back for the quarterfinal, semifinal, and I'm even going to try to sneak in some time for a championship game pre-show. We'll see if that gets approved.
We'll show up in suits.
Yeah, we'll show up in suits.
We'll show up in suits.
Only for the championship.
That's
right. I'm Mike Dykes. He's Gerald Smith. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Stay tuned. Tulsa at Denver kicks off right after this.